Congratulations, the Olympic Games now belong to you. The 5 rings, the torch, the whole brand. But the moment you open the financial records, you see the people running it before you aren't making their money from the sport. They're running a system where another city's budget disaster becomes your lifelong safety net. The people who actually run the games work from a quiet office in Lausanne, Switzerland. Picture a split screen. On one side, empty, ruined venues, a collapsed cycling track, a diving pool covered in green slime, a stadium with weeds growing in the seats. On the other side, a calm office in Lausanne, Switzerland, with a bank balance that has never gone down. Here's a number that should get your attention. The city that hosted the last Summer Olympics paid roughly $15 billion for the party. And you, the owner, paid nothing. In fact, you'll never have to write a check for a stadium. We're going to see where the real money comes in, why the host's ticket booth is not your main source of cash, the contract that turns the host into your unlimited safety net, and the trick that means you don't even need cities to apply anymore. So before you spend a single dollar on a stadium, let's look at how the people who actually run this operation, the IOC, are putting money into your accounts today. The real power of your new operation is that it owns nothing but a logo, and that logo is so popular it brings in billions before anyone even runs a race. But there's a risk. That brand is fragile. Your biggest income comes from TV networks that pay billions for the right to show the games. If there's a doping scandal or the host city runs out of money, those TV companies might cut their spending, so the people before you built a system that locks in the money years ahead. It keeps the cash coming no matter what happens to the city that builds the stadiums. NBC, the American TV network, alone promised $7.75 billion for U.S. rights across 6 games. A small group of top sponsors of the IOC's program called the Olympic Partners includes Coca-Cola, Visa, and Samsung. Each pays around $100 million or more every 4 years, and your reserve fund holds over $2 billion. That's enough to run the games even if no new money came in. That's the licensing machine you now own. It collects money from around the world before the host even starts construction. Keep in mind, this whole show now belongs to you. If the Olympic brand ever stops being so popular, you'll be left with an empty vault. But the people before you made sure that even when a city goes deep into debt, you get your money first. Of course, your brand does sell tickets, but if you look closely at the next Summer Games, you'll see the ticket window is not your biggest source of cash. Your biggest pile of money comes from global broadcasting rights. Networks like NBC and the European Broadcasting Union pay you directly to show the Olympics on TV. They need a live event that people watch together, not something they record. And you're the only one who owns it, so you sign deals that cover many games years ahead. The host city only gets a small fixed share. The rest stays in your Lausanne bank account. NBC paid about $4.38 billion for rights to Sochi through Tokyo. Later, it agreed to another $7.75 billion through 2032. That's an enormous total. The host city's share is often just a small part, maybe 20% of the US money, and that's only after you've taken your cut. You connect the world's TV cameras directly to the world's audience. You set the price. The host city never even watches the deal being made. Picture a TV studio where producers send payments directly to Switzerland. At the same time, the mayor of the host city gives a press conference, thanking the IOC for generous support. But in reality, the broadcast money is yours by contract. It arrives no matter how much the host spends. So broadcasting rights are half the machine. The other half is the small group of companies that call themselves official Olympic partner, and they never talk to the host city when they sign the check. The top sponsorship program gives a tiny group of the world's biggest brands an exclusive right. They can use the Olympic rings in their advertising around the world. These deals are made directly with the IOC, not the host. They cover many games, protecting your income from any local problems or construction delays. Partnerships with Coca-Cola, Visa, and Samsung can reach hundreds of millions of dollars over 4 years. The host city can only look for local sponsors, a bank, a phone company. Those bring in much less money. The host gets to sell ads around the stadium, but you own the top advertising spot on TV worldwide, and you never share the main contract. Picture a tidy meeting room where a single contract is signed for Olympic partner status. Meanwhile, outside a stadium, a street seller is told he can't sell a drink. His cup doesn't have official permission. The top program means you collect money from the world's biggest brands in advance. The host's local sponsorship team is barely making any money in comparison. Now, you might ask, if the host is throwing the party for you, aren't you responsible if the costs blow up? But look closely at the host city contract. You'll see that the people before you made sure that worry lands on someone else's financial records. The host city contract is a one-way street for risk. The host promises that the games will happen at any cost. It covers every security bill, every new road or train line, every extra dollar the stadium costs. The IOC only gives a part of the broadcast money and some advice. It never signs a loan. If the final bill triples, you just watch. London 2012, cost about $15 billion, much more than the $4 billion promised at the start. Athens 2004's huge spending is widely seen as one reason Greece later had such deep debt problems. Montreal took 30 years until 2006 to pay off the 1976 games. In every case, the IOC had already started the next torch relay with a new check in hand. Picture a page with a fresh signature next to a pile of construction bills. The signature is from a mayor who trusted the early budget numbers. You make the guest list for the party. The host agrees to pay the cleaning, the repairs, and the property tax forever. That contract makes sure the host pays the construction costs. But the real worries begin after the Olympic flame goes out. Then those stadiums start to take money from city budgets, year after year. Most Olympic venues don't serve a long-term local need. The Bird's Nest, Beijing's main stadium from 2008, is said to cost around $10 to $12 million a year just to stay open. It might host maybe one big event or tour. The Hellenico Olympic Complex in Athens was built for 2004. It was left to fall apart for nearly 20 years. Then a very slow rebuilding started. Every year those maintenance bills land on the host's desk, never on yours. You can see it in a satellite photo. Athens' softball venue, empty, with plants growing over it, pools dry and full of weeds. Meanwhile, the IOC's Swiss office stays warm all winter. You, the owner, closed your laptop at the closing ceremony and moved on to the next city. The host was left with a permanent utility bill that never showed up in the original plan. Picture a long drone shot over a huge, empty stadium in an old industrial part of Beijing. Then cut to crumbling walls in Athens' Olympic Village. The real cost for the host isn't the 4-week show. It's the 30-year burden of empty concrete buildings that nobody wants to pay for. So far, you've seen that the owner's money never gets mixed up with the host problems. But the people before you built one more protection that works in a different area, the one where athletes try to earn a living. Rule 40 of the Olympic Charter strictly limits what athletes can do. They cannot show their own sponsor's logo. They cannot even mention that sponsor during the games. This keeps your top sponsor's special rights pure, so the value of your rings never drops. At the same time, the IOC is a non-profit that pays no taxes under Swiss law. That means its billions in saved money grow without paying any business tax. And its members get daily money tax-free while flying business class. During the Tokyo Games, some track stars faced fines. They wore shoes with a visible logo. That company was not an official IOC partner. Meanwhile, the IOC's yearly report shows it usually holds over $2 billion in reserves. And those reserves are not taxed because the IOC is legally a non-profit association in Switzerland. It's a two-level machine. The athlete's chance to earn from their own sponsors is taken away for your benefit. The profits you collect sit in a safe labeled public good, so nobody complains. Picture an athlete carefully covering a sneaker logo with tape. At the same time, in a quiet Lausanne office, a financial chart shows the IOC's reserve fund climbing higher each year. The owner made a rule that pushes every dollar of logo value upward. Then they wrapped the whole operation in a tax-free legal shield, so nobody can see the extra money. You might think an obvious weak spot is that sooner or later, no city will want to sign that harmful contract. But the people who built the IOC already solved that by redesigning the sales process, so you never have to hold an open public competition again. The IOC faced a wave of cities pulling out and local votes that killed hosting plans. Hamburg, Boston, Budapest, and others. In response, they took a new approach. A future host commission now finds one preferred city and talks to them privately, often for years, before presenting a finished deal for a quick approval vote. Brisbane 2032 was given the games this way. No public competition, no other city checking the finances, no risk of a no vote because the deal was basically set in advance. The IOC knew exactly what Brisbane would offer in government backing. The final vote was 72 in favor, 5 against, a result nobody doubted. You can now handpick a host that offers the biggest financial guarantees and the least political trouble. Imagine an email inbox in Lausanne with a message thread titled, Brisbane, Final Guarantees. In the background, a TV news clip shows citizens protesting a city hall meeting that never got a real vote. You don't need volunteers anymore. You pick the city that offers the most money, call it a dialogue, and keep the one-way risk contract completely unchanged. So the machine looks impossible to break. But what if bad publicity eventually damages the brand so much that even a private secret deal can't convince a city to sign on? Could you, the new owner, finally see a loss? The only way the owner loses money is if the Olympic brand becomes so harmful that big broadcasters and sponsors leave. That would need a series of host disasters far worse than anything we've seen, even during scandals, doping, corruption arrests of IOC members. The TV rights and sponsor fees have only gone up, and because you have no debt, no stadium, and no fixed costs beyond your small main office, you can survive a games cancellation. Like the Tokyo 2020 delay, you still keep most of your income. The IOC's insurance policies and advance payments covered the Tokyo delay without really hurting its savings. Its 2020 yearly report still showed billions in assets. Meanwhile, Tokyo's host costs jumped from a planned $7 billion to an estimated $15 billion or more. The owner cannot lose because the contract ensures those costs are never yours in the first place. On a simple financial statement, the IOC Reserve Fund line stays steady through a pandemic-delayed year. Meanwhile, a map of Tokyo lights up with new delay cost marks. You are basically a lender who never had to put up your own money. You will always get paid before the host sees any profit, and if the event falls apart, you still have the insurance, while the host is left with the ruins. Even the biggest crisis in Olympic history couldn't make you lose money. The structure was built so your profits arrive first, and your losses land on everyone else. So your Olympic empire runs on licensing. It grabs billions from global broadcasting and sponsorship through a tax-free shield. Meanwhile, the host city contract itself makes some other government pay for the stadiums, the security, and the 30-year burden. The tickets are just for show. The host's legacy is a repair bill you never see, and you can now pick the next city in a quiet secret room with no vote. The owner cannot lose, not because the games always make a profit, but because the contract ensures those costs are never yours in the first place. And to sum it up, your broadcasting rights and top sponsors send money straight to you years ahead, without the host's budget touching it. The host city contract passes every extra cost and maintenance bill to the host for decades. Rule 40 and the non-profit status lock in your top brand value while keeping your extra money invisible. And the private pick system means you never face a no vote again. You inherited a one-way risk channel. The host loses money and your side of the accounts never drops. So, congratulations. The one thing you'll never need to worry about is who's paying the bill.